First contact with the invisible. The occupation began as a spectacle of power. Armored dropships split the skies above Novalis 4, a human colony world that had surrendered without much of a fight. The alien invaders, called the Threx Dominion, were known across the galaxy for overwhelming planetary defenses within hours. Their soldiers marched in gleaming carapace armor, their weapons humming with plasma energy, their scanners sweeping every street for resistance. To the Threx, this was routine. Another world added to their empire. Another population broken. Another resource planet to strip bare. Commander Verake, leader of the Threx ground forces, delivered his victory address in the central square of the captured city. His voice echoed through translation drones, contempt dripping from every syllable. Humans are primitive bipeds clinging to outdated tactics. They believe their forests, their mountains, their ruins offer them protection. But our sensors see through everything. There will be no resistance. There will be no ghosts to haunt you. Only the order of the Dominion. The soldiers jeered, claws clashing against their armor plates. The message was clear. The humans were beaten, and their fight was over. But in the forests outside the city, silence reigned. A Threx patrol of 10 soldiers marched along a fog-shrouded ridge, their scanners pulsing blue as they searched for stragglers. The undergrowth crackled softly under their armored boots. Movement detected 30 meters ahead. One soldier hissed, adjusting his targeting reticle. The squad froze, weapons raised. Their scanners showed a faint heat signature, small, indistinct, human perhaps. Advance. Flush them out. The point soldier stepped forward. A faint crack, so soft it was almost a whisper, echoed through the trees. His armor plate dented inward at the temple, and he collapsed before he had time to scream. The others spun, sensors flaring, but nothing appeared. No enemy. No muzzle flash. No plasma discharge. Just silence. Contact! Contact! Shouted the squad leader. Another crack. The soldier with the scanner dropped, a neat hole drilled through his helmet. Panic surged. The aliens fired in every direction, plasma bolts slicing through trees, igniting bark. The forest filled with blue fire and smoke, but no target revealed itself. A third alien fell, then a fourth. By the time the survivors staggered back toward the city, 3 remained out of 10. Their armor was scorched, their breaths ragged, their eyes wide with fear. "What happened to you?" Commander Verake demanded, glaring at the trembling survivors. The squad leader stammered, his mandibles quivering. We were ambushed, struck from nowhere. No heat signature, no energy pulse. Just death. They kill from the shadows." Verake sneered. "You disgraced yourselves with panic. There are no human weapons that can strike without light, without energy trails. You saw phantoms because you were cowards." The survivors protested, voices trembling. "They were real. They shot through our armor like it was nothing. We never saw them, Commander. We never." The commander silenced them with a lash of his electro-whip. "Enough. I will not have my soldiers spreading ghost stories. Humans are animals. They do not frighten the Dominion." But in the shadows of the square, human civilians huddled together, their faces gaunt from weeks of occupation. They heard the terrified words of the soldiers. They heard the denials of their commander, and they whispered to one another, voices trembling with sudden hope. "The snipers are here." The next night, another patrol vanished. Their distress signal ended mid-scream. When drones were sent to recover their bodies, they found them neatly arranged in a line, weapons stripped, armor pierced with precise holes. No human tracks, no energy signatures, nothing. Whispers spread faster than Verake could contain them. Soldiers muttered of invisible hunters, of silent death watching from the trees. They began refusing patrol duty, some feigning malfunctions in their gear, others outright deserting. The Dominion scanners swept endlessly, their psychic trackers probing the forests, their drones circling in tight orbits, but they found nothing. For the first time in centuries, the Threx were facing an enemy they could not understand. In a hidden nest, Deep within the forest, Sergeant Caravas lowered her rifle, the barrel still warm. She adjusted her ghillie cloak, blending once more into the moss and shadows. Beside her, Corporal Darren muttered softly, 3 shots, 3 bodies, and they still don't know where we are. Kara allowed herself the faintest smile. That's the point. We're not here to be seen. Darren adjusted his scope, scanning the alien campfires glowing faintly in the distance. They call us phantoms now. Good, Kara whispered, chambering another round. Let them believe in ghosts. Fear will do half our work for us. The forest swallowed their voices, leaving only silence, and the knowledge that somewhere out there, the Threx soldiers huddled in their camps, staring into the darkness, waiting for death they could neither see nor stop. For the first time since the occupation began, the humans of Novalis 4 felt something stronger than despair. Hope, because somewhere in the mist, hidden in the forests, humanity's phantoms were hunting. The Phantom Doctrine, the Dominion, was humiliated. Reports of unseen killers spread across the alien ranks, despite Commander Vereke's denials. Patrols returned in pieces, if they returned at all. Rumors began to grow louder than orders. Soldiers muttered of phantoms waiting in the trees, watching them with invisible eyes. And the truth was worse than their fears. Training for the invisible war. Years before the invasion, humanity had already known the war was coming. They had seen the Dominion swallow planet after planet, stripping worlds bare. Earth's military strategists understood one brutal fact. Humans could not match alien fleets ship for ship or weapon for weapon. So they invested in something different. The Phantom Doctrine, where the aliens built massive armies, humans trained small, lethal teams. Where aliens trusted scanners, humans trusted patience, camouflage, and silence. Where aliens expected overwhelming firepower, humans taught their soldiers to win with a single shot. The program was merciless. Trainees endured weeks in swamps without movement, learned to slow their heartbeats to near stillness, memorized wind patterns, and mastered the art of vanishing into terrain. Their rifles, low-tech by alien standards, fire ballistic rounds that left no energy signature, no heat trail. In a galaxy dominated by plasma and beam weapons, these projectiles were ghosts on scanners. One shot, one ghost, leave nothing behind. That was the creed. Alien countermeasures. Vereke, enraged at the collapse of discipline, ordered every technological measure deployed. Drones swarmed the forests, buzzing between trees with thermal scanners. Sonic pulses rolled across the ridges, designed to flush out hidden enemies. Psychic trackers probed the minds of human prisoners, searching for sniper nests. None of it worked. The drones recorded only empty forests, yet when squads followed the paths, soldiers fell one by one. The thermal scanners picked up faint heat sources, but they were decoys, heated rocks hidden under branches, left to draw attention. Sonic pulses revealed nothing but wildlife, and the psychic trackers, arrogant in their certainty, returned empty-handed. Because the snipers were not clustered in bases or bunkers. They were part of the land itself. The rescue. One night, a Dominion transport hovered above the treetops, its floodlights scouring the forest. A squad of Threx soldiers marched below, herding a line of human prisoners. Among them were children, their faces pale with fear. The squad leader barked orders. Use them as bait. If the phantoms want to fight, they will reveal themselves. The prisoners were dragged into a clearing, bound in the open. Soldiers set up a perimeter, rifles ready, scanning the trees for any movement. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then a whisper of sound, barely audible, cut through the night. The squad leader's head snapped back as a hole appeared in his skull. He collapsed instantly. Before the others could react, another shot punched through a soldier's chest. Then another. The formation crumbled into chaos. They fired wildly into the trees, their plasma bolts tearing apart the forest, but they hit nothing. One by one, the Threx fell until the last survivor dropped his weapon and fled, screaming about ghosts. The human prisoners blinked in stunned silence. A woman in the group sobbed, thinking they had been abandoned. until Sergeant Kara Voss emerged from the shadows, her rifle slung across her back. Her ghillie cloak shed leaves and moss, as if the forest itself was letting her go. "You're safe now," Kara said, cutting their bonds. "Stay quiet. Follow us." Other snipers appeared like wraiths from the underbrush, escorting the survivors away. To the rescued humans, it felt less like soldiers saving them and more like spirits guiding them through the dark. By dawn, the story had already spread through the underground networks of Novalis 4. The Phantoms protect us. Alien desperation. In the Dominion fortress, Commander Vereke slammed his clawed fist against the command table, his mandibles flaring with rage. "They are humans," he roared. "Flesh and blood. They bleed. They must bleed." His advisors exchanged uneasy glances. "We have deployed every scanner, every drone. Still they fall. Perhaps," one began carefully, "perhaps the soldiers are right. Perhaps we fight something beyond human." Vereke's eyes glowed with fury. "Superstition. There are no spirits. There are only weapons we do not yet understand." Yet, despite his words, even he avoided leaving the fortress at night. The growing legend. Every failed patrol, every sudden death, every whispered story fed the legend. Human civilians, once hopeless, now passed messages in the dark. The Phantoms strike again. Alien soldiers, once arrogant, now twitched at the sound of snapping branches. Their claws trembled on plasma triggers. Some refused to step beyond the fortress walls at all. The Dominion, masters of technology, were being undone not by superior weapons, but by the most ancient human tools: fear, patience, and the long rifle. Closing scene. High on a ridge overlooking the alien city, Kara and her team crawled into position. Through her scope, she saw Dominion soldiers moving nervously around their barricades, scanning the tree-line, jumpy and exhausted. "They're breaking," Darren whispered beside her. "They'll break further," Kara replied, adjusting her rifle. She steadied her breathing, heartbeat slowing, body perfectly still. The crosshairs settled on an officer shouting orders. A soft crack echoed across the valley. The officer crumpled. Below, chaos erupted once more. Kara exhaled and melted back into the forest. "Let them keep guessing," she murmured. "The more they fear us, the less they fight. That's how we win." And with that, the Phantoms vanished once more into the mist. Fear across the stars. The Dominion's war machine was built on confidence. For centuries, their armies had crushed resistance with overwhelming numbers and flawless technology. When a world was occupied, soldiers strutted openly in the streets, their discipline sharpened by certainty. They were untouchable. On Novalis 4, that certainty was gone. The collapse of morale. At first, it was just whispers. A squad didn't return. A drone relay went silent. Patrols found comrades laid out in eerie precision, rifles missing, helmets pierced by invisible bullets. But whispers spread faster than orders. Dominion soldiers began refusing patrol assignments. Veterans who had once mocked humans now twitched at every shadow. Even the fortress walls felt unsafe. Many claimed they could feel unseen eyes watching them at night. When Vereke ordered 200 troops to sweep a forest ridge, only half obeyed. The rest feigned malfunctions or claimed sudden illness. The troops that did march into the ridge returned broken. They fired from impossible ranges. One survivor stammered. "We couldn't even aim before we were dead. They see us before we see them." "They're not human," another whispered. "They're phantoms, ghosts with rifles." The council debate. The growing panic reached beyond Novalis 4. Reports filtered up the Dominion chain of command and reached the Galactic Council, where other alien species observed with barely concealed amusement. The Threx Dominion's ambassador slammed his claws on the council table. "You dare laugh? Our soldiers face an enemy that defies detection. A primitive species that should not even scratch our armor is cutting us down as if we are vermin." A serpentine counselor hissed. "Perhaps your soldiers are cowards. Ghost stories are not warfare." Another counselor leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Do not underestimate humans. Their history is full of such tactics: ambush, assassination, guerrilla war. They thrive in shadows. The chamber fell silent. The Threx ambassador's mandibles twitched with fury, but he could not deny the truth. Dominion forces were bleeding not from battles, but from fear. The Phantom Strategy. In the forests of Novalis 4, Kara Voss crouched with her team, listening to captured Dominion comms chatter. Fear crackled through the transmissions. Panicked voices reporting unseen attackers, commanders shouting to restore order. Darren grinned. They're unraveling. We don't even need to kill many anymore. Just one shot here, one shot there, and they start tearing themselves apart. Kara's eyes stayed on her scope. Good. That's the plan. We can't match their numbers. But if every shadow terrifies them, they'll defeat themselves. Across the planet, other sniper teams worked the same doctrine. Sometimes they fired a single shot and vanished. Sometimes they let patrols march unharmed, so the aliens never knew when death would come. Sometimes they spread false trails, broken branches, or heat signatures, letting paranoia consume the enemy. Fear became the true weapon. The breaking point. A Dominion battalion was ordered to secure a mining valley. Their commander shouted into comms, promising rewards for bravery and punishment for hesitation. Reluctantly, the soldiers advanced. Halfway down the valley slope, the first shot rang out. An officer collapsed. Chaos erupted. Soldiers fired blindly, plasma scorching rock walls. Another shot. Another death. Soon, the battalion was no longer fighting humans. It was fighting itself. Soldiers turned on one another in panic, suspecting betrayal, their formations shattering as they fled uphill, abandoning weapons in their scramble to escape the phantoms. From her perch overlooking the valley, Kara watched through her scope, expression calm. They've already lost, she murmured, and they don't even know how. Fear across the stars. News of the phantom snipers spread beyond Novalis 4. Across occupied human colonies, Dominion soldiers muttered in fear of unseen killers. Some claimed the phantoms could move through walls. Others swore they saw shadows shifting where no human stood. Alien civilians in the wider galaxy began telling stories too. Tales of human ghosts who could stalk prey for days, who could shoot through armor, who were never seen until it was too late. In marketplaces, in council halls, in taverns along the space lanes, the same whispered phrase emerged. Humans are phantoms. The Dominion's dilemma. Back on Novalis 4, Commander Verake sat in his command chamber, claws drumming furiously on the table. Reports piled high, each more humiliating than the last. Losses in the hundreds, yet no recorded battles. Supplies vanishing from convoys. Entire units refusing to march. He hissed at his subcommanders. We are the Dominion. We do not cower from shadows. But his words fell flat. The officers avoided his eyes, their own troops refusing orders, their own patrols disintegrating. Even Verake could not ignore the truth. They were losing not to armies, not to fleets, but to whispers in the dark. Closing scene. That night, as the twin moons rose above the forests, Kara's team watched the alien fortress from afar. Bright lights ringed the walls, soldiers pacing nervously beneath them. Their burning energy keeping every lamp on, Darren whispered, like children afraid of the dark. Kara allowed herself a small smile. Good. That means they're thinking about us every second. And the more they fear us, the less they fight. She slid her rifle into position, peering through the scope at a nervous alien officer barking orders by the gate. The shot echoed softly. The officer fell. Panic rippled through the fortress once more. Soldiers scattered, shouting about phantoms in the night. Kara exhaled slowly, fading back into the trees. The war was far from over, but the humans had already won something greater than a battle. They had won the enemy's mind. The last shot. The Dominion had had enough. Novalis 4 was supposed to be an easy conquest, a simple occupation. Instead, it had become a graveyard of soldiers and pride. Weeks of patrols lost to invisible killers, entire battalions dissolving in terror, and whispers of phantoms spreading across the stars. The Dominion's high command issued one order: burn the world clean. The invasion of Earth. But before their ships could finish their campaign on Novalis 4, the order changed. A greater target loomed: the humans' homeworld, Earth itself. If we burn their cradle, Commander Verkay growled, we break their spirit. The phantoms will vanish once their nest is ash. So the Dominion fleet massed, descending upon Earth in numbers meant to crush not just resistance, but hope. Tens of thousands of soldiers deployed, landing across forests, mountains, and ruined cities. This time, they came prepared: floodlights on every dropship, drones circling overhead, psychic trackers probing every mind within kilometers. We will drown their shadows in light, Verkay declared to his army. The waiting game. High in the forests of the Rocky Mountains, Kara Voss lay in wait. Her team had been in position for weeks, buried beneath camouflage, their rifles wrapped in foliage, their bodies blending perfectly with the stone and snow. She listened to the thunder of dropships landing, the hiss of alien boots crushing the earth. Through her scope, she watched columns of Dominion soldiers advancing cautiously, every one of them twitching, every one of them scanning the trees with wide, fearful eyes. They brought everything this time, Darren whispered beside her. Lights, drones, even psychic hunters. Think it'll help. Kara didn't look away from her scope. No, they've already lost. They just don't know it yet. The trap. The Dominion's advance slowed as snipers across the world began their work. One shot here, one officer down, another shot miles away. A supply convoy destroyed. At first, the aliens fired back wildly, their plasma bolts cutting through trees and stone. But the phantoms did not answer in volleys. They answered in silence. Minutes, sometimes hours, passed between shots. Every second stretched into agony for the soldiers, who never knew if the next heartbeat would be their last. Paranoia took root. Soldiers refused to leave cover. Drones, sent ahead to scout, vanished from the skies, their sensors blinded by low-tech tricks. Mud, mirrors, nets. Even the psychic trackers failed. They probed the forests, found human thoughts, but hundreds of decoys confused them. Sniper teams transmitted false signals, old recordings of human voices, bait that drew Dominion hunters into killing grounds. The aliens thought they had cornered prey. Instead, they walked into the jaws of predators. The breaking of an army. At the height of the battle, the Dominion Supreme Commander arrived on Earth to oversee the campaign personally. From a mobile command post, shielded and reinforced, he barked orders across the battlefield. Push them forward. Break the forests apart. Do not stop. But soldiers hesitated. Units refused to advance. Entire platoons went missing, their bodies discovered days later with single bullet holes through their helmets. And then, in one single night, the phantoms struck harder than ever before. Sniper teams across the world coordinated, every team firing at once. Commanders, officers, communications crews, supply drivers, all fell within minutes. The Dominion's war machine stalled. An army without leaders became nothing more than frightened bodies with rifles. The last shot, Kara Voss crawled into position on a snow-covered ridge. Through her scope, she saw the Supreme Commander himself, towering in his armor, shouting into a comms unit inside the shielded command post. No human weapon can breach these barriers, he snarled. We are safe in here. Push forward. Kara slowed her breathing. Her hands were steady, her body perfectly still. The wind was strong, the range extreme, but she had waited days for this shot. Darren's voice was barely a whisper. You really think you can hit him through that? Kara's finger rested on the trigger. Not think. No. She fired. The bullet screamed across miles, arcing through wind and snow. It struck the commander's shield, designed to repel plasma bolts, energy blasts, even railgun fire. But it was not built for the simplest weapon of all. The round punched through, finding the narrow seam at his neck joint. The alien Supreme Commander collapsed without a word. The Dominion's army froze. For one long moment, silence ruled the battlefield. And then chaos. Officers screamed. Soldiers broke ranks. Some threw down weapons, others fired in panic at shadows. The vast army dissolved into a stampede, retreating to drop ships that lifted off in frantic waves. The Dominion fled Earth. The phantom victory. When the last ship vanished into the night sky, Kara finally lowered her rifle. Her body ached from stillness, her eyes burned from the scope, but her voice was calm. "It's done." Darren let out a long, shaky breath. "We just broke an empire." "Not us," Kara corrected softly. "Fear did." All around them, other sniper teams emerged from shadows, their cloaks shedding leaves and snow. They looked less like soldiers than like myths born from the land itself. Closing scene. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy buzzed with the story, not of fleets or armies or grand victories, but of invisible killers, unseen hunters, human phantoms who struck from nowhere and left only silence behind. For the first time, the Dominion was afraid, truly afraid. And in that fear, humanity found its weapon. Because in the dark forests of Earth, the galaxy had learned a terrible truth. Human snipers are not soldiers. They are phantoms,